I'm sure the thumbnail gave away what this video is about, but it is already time to do a pantry tour video. Can you believe that? I only do a pantry tour video once a year, and it's always in the fall once the shelves are full and the harvest is done. And I can't believe that we're actually already at that point. So let's just get right into it. All right, here's a good place to start. And the first thing I want to point out is all of this stuff hanging from here. So this is all basil that I harvested from the garden, and I'm just dehydrating it by tying it into bundles and hanging it out here to dry. You can use the dehydrator and you can use the oven, but I personally like not only the way that this looks, but it smells good in here too. There's a piece of garlic hanging right here just because it was the first one that I pulled this season to check and make sure they were done, and I just happened to hang it there, and now I just like the way that it looks, which is why it's still there. So first thing up on the list here is lard. So this is actually pork fat that I rendered down last year, I think. So I've got tons of jars of it here in various sizes. I've got 250, 500, and I've got the 1 liter jars. So the lard is used for all kinds of things. You can use it for cooking, you can use it for baking, you can use it for soap making. Once you render this down, if it's done correctly, that animal smell should be removed from the lard. You should not be able to smell it or taste it. I find that this is pretty clean. Like, I don't smell anything or taste anything when we eat it. I've got tons of it here, so this is gonna last us forever. I've only used a few jars, I think. So this will be good for quite a while still. I have a bunch of lard in the freezer still, but that's gonna be ground up and mixed with the half of a deer that I have in the freezer. Next up is pickled carrots. So this year I ended up doing a variety pack of carrots. So I think I ended up with yellow, orange, red, and purple. Something like that. Anyways, we harvested them all. They looked amazing. I brought them inside, trimmed them up, and put them in a bag. I passed the bag to Bailey and I said, can you throw these in the fridge for me until we get back from sports, and I'll process them when we get back. And accidentally, she put them in the freezer. And once they're in the freezer, you can't do anything like this with them because once you thaw them out, they're gonna be soft. Thankfully, somebody was able to get me a bunch of colored carrots, and then I was able to pickle some of them. So pickled carrots are delicious if you've never had them before. They're basically like a spicy dilly bean, but I do the same brine for carrots. They stay nice and crisp in there. I've got dill in them and garlic. The garlic I grew myself. So these are really good. If you've never tried pickled carrots, I definitely recommend them. I ended up pickling all the carrots I was given, and the reason I did that is because we love them, but also Nicole loves them. So she's already informed me that she'll be taking probably 5 jars. So that's why there's so many of those. Next up is pickled jalapenos. So if you watch any of my videos this season, you'll know that this was a horrible year for growing. It was one of the worst seasons I've ever had for growing, and it wasn't just me. Our weather this year was unbearably hot. We were up in the mid 40 degrees Celsius for almost the entire summer. So we went from rain and cold to extremely hot for a long period of time. So everything that I had planted, most things bolted or they got stunted or they just didn't grow at all. So my peppers did horribly. Thankfully, the same person who supplied me with the carrots also supplied me with the hot peppers. So I was able to get a whole bunch of jars done. I was a little bit stressed about that because pickled jalapenos are something we eat a ton of, and to not have those on the shelf this year would have been quite devastating. As you can see, I've got tons of them here. There's 3 rows of them. Some of them are in liter jars even. And I did a few extra jars because one of my friends also had a horrible season for them. And she asked me if I could spare a few jars, and I said yes. So I do have quite a few jars here, and 4 of them are gonna be going to one of my friends. Next up is banana peppers. So same sort of deal with the banana peppers. They did really poorly this year. I was able to get 4 jars of my own banana peppers. The reason I didn't end up getting any more from anybody else is because I have a couple liters left from last season. So between that and jalapenos, we'll have more than enough to get us to next year. Next up, we've got Cowboy candy. If you're unfamiliar with Cowboy candy, it's basically candied jalapenos. So these are jalapenos in a sweet brine with garlic in the bottom. It's still hot from the pepper, but the brine itself is sweet. So it's like a sweet hot kind of thing. These are super popular. I usually have them on the website, but I don't right now because I don't really have very many of them, so I don't want to part with them. They're super popular. My whole family loves them. They're really good on pizza. They're really good with crackers and cheese, and quite honestly, they're really good to just eat right out of the jar with a fork. This is something, again, that I did a whole bunch of, mainly for the reason that Nicole wants some. So I did this giant jar for her, but this certainly probably will not be enough. And my dad really likes them, and so does Johnny. I think I have around 36 jars in here, plus the 1 liter jar. So That'll be enough for me, Nicole, my dad, and my brother, and maybe a few to spare. I'm not sure yet. Next up over here is syrup. So if you follow my channel, you know that we do syrup every year. This season I did syrup with my dad for the first time. It was just him and I. And we had the best season we've ever had for syrup. We tapped the most trees we've ever tapped. I think we did around 90 or 100 trees this year. We ended up with 90 or 100 liters. Syrup sold out right away on the website within the first couple hours of being posted. So thank you to everyone who supported that. Syrup will be back on the website in the spring at the end of syrup season. So no, it's not on there right now. I've got 13 liters left, and that'll barely be enough to get us to next season. And honestly, I won't even open all of these. I save 1 liter from each season to compare the color and stuff. So there's actually 3 liters in here that won't be open. And while we're here, let me show you the color difference. So that's 2023, 2024, and 2025. So they're quite different. All right, so over here I've got my strawberry jam. I've got 28 jars of strawberry jam, so tons of strawberry jam. Strawberries are something that I just planted here 2 years ago when I first moved, so they're not really well established yet. So when I make my jam, I still have to go to another farm and do a U-pick. So that's what I did this year with one of my friends. We did have a really good time. I do look forward to doing that kind of stuff with her, but it would be nice to be at a point where I don't have to go do a U-pick somewhere and that I have enough strawberries, but it is gonna take a little bit of time. Like I said, I only just planted them 2 years ago and I only have 2 rows. So I'm hoping in the next couple of years I have enough established that I can stop doing U-picks. Next up over here is something that I tried for the first time this year, and this is dandelion jelly. So dandelions come out first thing in the spring and they have a very short season down here. So I think it's probably about, oh gosh, I want to say only 3 weeks or so, and the dandelions are gone. So I picked the dandelions during peak time during the middle of the day. So once the sun is completely up overhead, the dandelions are then wide open. And honestly, it's one of the easiest things you can make. All you do is essentially steep your dandelions like you're making a tea, and then you use that liquid to make the jam. The jam itself has sort of a honey-like citrusy kind of taste. So it's really subtle with a hint of zing at the end. I don't know how else to say it, but it's basically honey and lemon. That's what it tastes like. Next up over here is apple pie jam. So not the same as apple pie in a jar. That is not what this is. This is jam, but it's apple pie jam. So my trees did relatively okay this year, but the season for my trees was super short. I did get a significant amount of apples off them, but the window was so short. It was like they were ripe and ready, and then a few days later they were on the ground. So I got some, but these jars of jam were actually made with apples that were given to me from somebody else's farm. So this is really good. It tastes exactly like apple pie, but it has the consistency of jam. I left this jam a little bit chunky so you can see the pieces of apple in there, but this is really good on toast. Mason really likes it. Next up is apple cider. Again, same thing. This was made with apples that were off the same trees that the apples came from for the apple pie jam. And this actually turned out really well. If you've ever eaten an apple right off a tree before that's not commercially farmed, it has a bit of a, I don't know how to describe it, like a pucker. Like it's very, very puckery. I don't know another way to say it. So this has a bit of a to it, if that makes any sense. It's sweet, but it's a bit tart. So it's really good. It's good cold, it's good hot. I make it mostly for Mason. He loves apple cider. He heats it up, puts it in his thermos, takes it to school, and has it as his morning snack, usually with a muffin. So that is why I make this literally only for him. Next up over here is lemon juice. I know that might sound odd that there's lemon juice on my shelf. I prefer freshly squeezed lemon juice wherever lemon juice is called for. I don't like the stuff that you buy at the store in the jar. So what I do is I buy lemons when they're on sale. We have a discount bin or a bulk bin at the grocery store that I go to. So when those are on sale, that's when I grab a few bags. I juice them and then I just can them. It's super easy. You literally just juice your lemon, put it in the jar, and then water bath it for 10 minutes. The end. Then it's good on the shelf for a year or longer. Quite honestly, Abby's usually the one that juices them because she likes doing that. So I like to have a few jars. As we can see here, I only have 2 left, which is not going to be enough, so I'll have to do some more. It also saves space. I know that some people juice them and freeze it. I don't mind it on the shelf. I only do a few jars at a time, so it's really not a big deal. Next up is honey. So this season was relatively good for honey. I got a significant amount for the amount of bees that I have. I actually lost my bees over the winter last winter from rodents. The rodents here are just absolutely insane, and I guess mice had went into the bottom of the hive. I had 1/4 inch galvanized mesh across the bottom where the excluder goes, but I guess one of them had popped off and mice went into one, and yeah, anyways, I lost my hives over the winter, so I had to start with new hives this year. So when you start with a new hive, you're not gonna be pulling as much honey out of it. You wanna make sure that they're established and they have enough food for over the winter. I only pulled out enough to keep us going over the winter, and then I had about 8 extra jars to put in the cooler at the end of the driveway, and then I gave a couple to my mom. Next up is raspberry jam. So this is actually my last jar of raspberry jam, and it's left from last season. I did do raspberries this year. I went raspberry picking. Again, not something that I have here at this property. I would really like to have raspberries of my own to pick and eliminate going to a U-pick, but it wasn't an option for this year. So I went with my friend, the same friend that I did the strawberry picking with. We went and did raspberries, but because this season was so horrible for weather, even the U-pick farms barely had any raspberries. So I was able to get 1 basket, which was not enough to actually make a batch of jam. So I ended up using it to make a raspberry crumble. So I'm gonna have to hang on to this jar for dear life because this is the only one we have until next year when raspberries are back in season. Next up is 1 lonely jar of zucchini relish. Zucchini did amazing this year. That was pretty much the only thing in the garden that thrived. I had enough zucchini to feed the entire county where I live. So there's no shortage of that. The only reason I don't have a whole bunch of these on the shelf right now is because I haven't made zucchini relish yet. I've got tons of shredded zucchini bagged up and vacuum sealed in the freezer. So that'll be something that I'll be doing in the colder months when I have some more time and I'm completely done with outside. It's really good on hamburgers or sausages or anything like that. Honestly, I've eaten it with a fork just right out of the jar before. It's really, really good. Definitely something I'll be making some more of soon. Next up is blueberry thyme jam. Blueberry thyme might sound like a weird combo. I only have a few of them on the shelf. I was kind of trialing some recipes to see what other preserves I wanted to add to the website, and blueberry thyme was one of the ones that I tried. This is really good. It definitely probably could use a bit more thyme because it's more sweet than it is savory. This is more for something like you take some melted brie, you put it on a baguette, and you put some of this on it. I don't know that I would put this right on toast, probably not because it has thyme in it, but it's more of like a chutney thing to eat with a charcuterie board. Next up is hot sauce. I made this hot sauce a couple years ago. It's still on the shelf. I have a few jars left, and the reason being is because this is fire. This is so freaking hot that I eat it in such small doses that I still have 4 jars left. 3 jars left. It's really good. It's just super hot. I made it with peppers that I grew, and when you buy hot sauce from the store, yes, it's hot, but nothing is ever as pungent or fresh or full of flavor as it is when you grow it yourself. So even hot peppers I find are way more hot than a pepper that you buy at the store. So this definitely solidified that. This is insanely hot. This is just leftover brine from when I did the Cowboy candy. I didn't want to waste it, so I just canned the brine. You can use this as a marinade. I could probably use this to make some jerky if I do that. I'm not really sure what I'm going to use this with, but I knew there was no way I was going to waste this because the brine is so good. So over here is just all of my dried herbs and spices. I did not grow all of these. I grew some of them: basil, rosemary, oregano, thyme, parsley, there's something else, sage. There's a couple other things in there that I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but this is all dried herbs. So here's some rosemary, for example. If it's something that I don't grow myself, I buy it in bulk and then I just put it in jars. I suppose I don't really need to put it in jars, but I do like the way that it looks all lined up neatly. So that's all that is. This up here is just some baking stuff. So cocoa, baking powder, baking soda, muffin liners, cornstarch, that kind of stuff. So nothing really to report up there. So down here you can see I've got tons of jars of extra virgin olive oil. I think I have 21 jars of it. This olive oil regularly is somewhere between $15 and $17. It depends on the week. This went on sale for $7.99. So as you can see, I stocked up because I don't want to pay $17 for olive oil. I like the extra virgin olive oil light tasting stuff. I don't like that really pungent olive taste. I use this as the base for my vinaigrette salad dressings. I also use this when I make Caesar salad dressing, and I use it for a variety of things. Over here we've got goldfish. That's right, goldfish. After all this food that I've grown and canned myself, we still have goldfish on the shelf. Just because you homestead and grow your own food and cook your meals from scratch and do all the stuff that we do, we still have goldfish. My kids like them. Honestly, I don't really care. This is one of like 4 things that I buy from the store for them. So they eat pretty well most of the time. So goldfish in their lunch, not the end of the world. Over here, I've got a bunch of jars of rice. So same thing, the basmati rice that I like was on sale. And I basically just bought a whole bunch of it and dry canned it. The reason I dry can the rice is for a variety of reasons. 1, it extends the shelf life, and 2, once you put it into the oven to dry can it, it kills anything that's in it. It is not uncommon for there to be some sort of bug or bug egg or something like that in your dry pasta or in your rice or in your lentils. When you dry can it, that kills anything that's in there. So once it's sealed, nothing's getting in. The problem with putting your rice or dry pasta or lentils or whatever it is on the shelf is if there's been an egg in there from the factory or from wherever it came from, that egg is gonna hatch and you are gonna get weevils in your food. And that is gross, we don't want that. Another way to avoid that is by taking whatever it is that you're buying. So say you buy a bag of flour or you buy a bag of rice. If you take that and you put it in your freezer for 24 hours or 48 hours, it'll kill whatever's in there because it's gonna freeze. And then once you take it out and put it on the shelf, whatever was in there is dead. However, you do run the risk of stuff coming back into the jar. So I just personally like to dry can it right into the oven at 200 for 60 minutes, I think. Take it out, put the lids right on, and the heat from the jar automatically seals it, and then it's good on the shelf. Over here on this side, you can see I've got 2 more bags of goldfish. I've got more rice, and I've got a big 2-liter jar of quinoa. So same kind of thing, dry can the quinoa, same reason, same speech. Over here, I've got vanilla extract and lemon extract. Super easy to make, way cheaper than buying it. Pure vanilla extract is about $17 for 100 mils. I think that's what it works out to. Doing this, you can do it for like 10% of the cost. So that's what I do. Take your grade B vanilla beans, you split them open, you put them in a jar, you top it up with alcohol. In this one, I used vodka. You can use bourbon, you can use whatever. And then you just let it sit for 6 months. And you can see how dark that is. This is some of the best vanilla I've ever had. It smells amazing. And it's just such a strong vanilla flavor. It does not compare to anything from the store. And in my opinion, artificial vanilla shouldn't even be allowed to be sold because read the back of it. I don't know why we're making artificial vanilla when pure vanilla extract is 2 ingredients. You can see the color difference in these. This one's darker, it's been on the shelf longer, so I usually do them in batches. Once my first row of bottles is empty, I'll fill up the empty ones and then move on to the second row. So these ones have not been sitting as long as these ones, and you can see that very evidently in the color. This one is lemon extract. So same sort of thing, it's just done with lemon peels and vodka instead of vanilla beans and vodka. So this I use when I'm making lemon bread or lemon poppy seed muffins or anything that requires just an extra bit of lemon flavor. It smells really good as well. You can use vanilla extract from the store. Again, this is way less expensive and it just tastes better. Okay, so down here, I've got my chicken broth and my beef broth. So yeah, I only have these 2 rows of beef left, so I definitely need to do some more of those. I've got some bones in the freezer. This is all made with chicken bones from my chickens or my turkeys. The beef bones I usually get from my aunt. So when they do their beef, she usually saves me a bag of bones. So that's what that's from. This we use a whole bunch of. This will not even be close to enough for the winter. I actually have to do this again next week and clean out the freezer and make some room for that. Hunting season is right around the corner and I plan on putting a deer in there, so I need some space. I'll do another batch of this and probably do, I wanna say like 30 or 40 liters of it. With this amount that's on the shelf, that'll be enough to get us through the winter. So over here, I've got my crushed tomatoes. Again, as I've said before, this season was absolutely horrific for harvest, and that includes the tomatoes. I did get some tomatoes and I was able to do, I think, 20 liters or 19 liters of tomatoes. The same person who got me the carrots and the hot peppers also got me some more tomatoes, so I was able to do twice as many liters. So I think I ended up with around 40 liters, which is amazing because normally I only get around 20 to 25 off the tomatoes that I grow. And every single year I run out before the next harvest. So this is amazing. I only have 31 of them left. So while I did end up with more than I usually do, I'm also using it up way quicker than I normally do. I think because I'm thinking, oh, I have double the amount, so I don't have to be so conscientious about using it. But that is not the case, because I just use it all the time, all willy-nilly. And I think even with 40 liters, I'm still gonna run out before next year. I only do crushed tomatoes, so I do not do pasta sauce, pizza sauce, and crushed tomatoes. I just do straight crushed tomatoes all across the board. The reason I do that is, well, there's a few reasons. Number one, it's easier because I don't have to make 3 recipes and can 3 times and do all that. Number two, when I run out of pasta sauce and only have crushed tomatoes left, or vice versa, I run out of crushed tomatoes and I only have pasta sauce left, not every recipe can use pasta sauce, and not every recipe can use pizza sauce. So I found by doing everything as crushed tomatoes, I can just season it as I need it for whatever it is that I'm doing. If I did 20 liters of pasta sauce and 20 liters of crushed tomatoes, and I get into a situation where I need plain tomatoes and I don't have any, I'm still stuck going to the store. By doing it all plain, that allows me the freedom to turn it into whatever I want, whenever I want. All right, so next up is kombucha. So I just bottled this morning. It's on its 2nd ferment right now, which is why it's sitting on the shelf. So you would do your first ferment in a carafe or some kind of large vessel. Once it hits the right pH level, then you move it over to your bottles and let it ferment a 2nd time on the shelf, and that's where the carbonation develops. Once it's carbonated to your liking, you just move it right into the fridge and you leave it in there. So because I just bottled this morning, you can see bubbles are developing in there. This is not carbonated enough for me. I like mine extra bubbly, so I'll leave this on the shelf for probably, it's Wednesday today, so I'll probably put it in the fridge on Friday. We drink a lot of kombucha and the kids really love it too, so I always have a 2nd ferment going, and then once I've moved into bottling it, I start a 2nd batch of it so that we're never without. Next up over here is maple beans. In the winter, I like to do chili in the crock pot, especially if I'm working. I'll just set it, put everything out in the morning, leave it for Abby, and then when Abby gets up, she'll just turn it on. That way the timer is set and it's ready for when she gets home from school so that they don't have to worry about making dinner. I like to do maple beans because I like to do a maple bacon chili. And I don't want to buy beans from the store from a can because they're very easy to make. So I made this with my own maple syrup and just some dry beans. Really, really good. I would not eat these plain by itself because I don't like beans like that, but you could. I mean, they taste good, but I only have a few of these left on the shelf and they're primarily just used for chili. Back here, I've got a few jars of canned venison. So canned venison is something that I just tried this year for the first time. I've never done it before, and I was a little bit nervous because I've never canned just meat on its own. I've done bone broth and chicken stock, which I mean essentially is meat as well, but I've never actually put meat in a jar and canned it. So this was a cool experience to learn how to do it. It's definitely a lot easier than I thought. And by pressure canning it, the meat is much more tender. So I was a little bit concerned that it was going to be tough, but it's not. Because it's pressure canned, it actually is quite tender. This I'll just probably dump into a stew or a soup or something, or honestly I might just make a sauce and pour it into that and then do venison on rice. Lots of options with that, and just another way to store food for yourself instead of just putting it in the freezer. Over here is some banana peppers. These couple jars that I have here are just left from last season, so these I'm using up before I obviously open new jars that I can this season. I always try and go with FIFO, which is first in, first out. So whatever was canned first needs to get eaten first. By keeping that motto in your head, it makes it almost impossible to let stuff sit on the shelf and go bad before you get to it. So I hate wasting food. That drives me nuts. I do not like wasting food, especially food that I've grown and taken the time to care for and can. So FIFO for everything, first in, first out. Over here, we've got some dilly beans, another fan favorite, definitely a favorite of Nicole. She eats tons of these beans. My beans this year though, the dang birds. Every time I would plant them, they would dig them up. I had a huge problem with birds and rabbits in the garden this year and chickens. So I put up a bunch of netting and that seemed to be doing okay, but it would not obviously keep the birds out because the birds can just fly in. So I was having a really hard time getting my beans to grow because the birds would just uncover the dirt and pick at the seeds. These few jars that I have, 6 jars in a 1 liter jar, that's all I have, and this is left from last season. So this should make it to next year, like get us to the end of the season before I have to do it again, but I don't know. It's gonna be close, especially because Nicole takes them. Over here, I've got some pickles. So I've got 9 jars of pickles left. So I actually didn't do pickles this year. This is certainly not gonna be enough to get us to next year, but I was having a problem getting pickle crisp. Pickle crisp is not something you need to use. However, I like my pickles being crisp and firm. I do not like a soggy pickle. I do not like a soggy pickle. There's no other way to say that. I don't like my pickle when it's not crisp. I want it to be crisp when I bite into it. I like to use pickle crisp. You just use a 1/4 teaspoon of it and it keeps the firmness and the crunchiness to your pickle. I find without doing that, once you start canning them, the cucumber is cooking in the brine while it's being processed, and that leads to a soft pickle. And I do not like a soft pickle. The texture is very off-putting. We'll have to slow down on our pickle consumption, I guess. And last but not least on this shelf, this big thing, this is my kombucha that I just rebatched this morning. So as you can see, it's super dark compared to this stuff. This has juice in it for flavor now, but because it's been fermenting for so long, the darkness of the tea has gone away. So it's much lighter. Once it gets to the right pH, the liquid itself doesn't look so dark. You want to make sure your pH for your kombucha is between 2 and 3 before you pull it and bottle it to do its second ferment, just for safety. And over here, this little corner, which is just tucked away in the corner because it's so small and there's nowhere else to put it, but there's a little container of fruit to-goes here. Mason likes fruit leathers now and then, and there's some organic applesauce in the little squeezy things. I do make applesauce, but Abby and Mason really like to have them in these little packets so they can eat them on the go, hence the name Go-Go Squeeze. Abby will sometimes eat one of these on her way to sports. Same with Mason. There's a couple packs of rice crackers here and a couple little baguette things because Abby likes to have goat cheese on crackers and Bailey likes to have rice crackers and hummus. So this little corner is the store-bought section. And I'll just quickly touch on these tote bins that I have down here. So I've got white sugar in this one. This is organic bread flour. This is oats. And the one behind me over there is organic all-purpose flour. So I do a lot of baking. I do all of our bread, bagels, buns, biscuits, cookies, muffins, literally all of that. I make it all. I don't buy any of it. So we go through a whole lot of flour and a whole lot of sugar. I have another one of these of brown sugar, and actually I'm on my way to go pick up an organic cane sugar one as soon as I'm done this video. So all of the stuff that I use an abundance of, I buy in bulk and store in these totes. No, I don't use the food grade buckets. These are straight up tote bins. I'm not worried about anything getting into these because I go through it so quickly. Up here, I just have things like peanut butter, sesame oil, balsamic vinegar, soy sauce, stuff that's on sale. I just buy a couple extra jars of it. Nothing really else to report up here. Popcorn seeds. These are organic granola bars. In a pinch, the kids will grab these if we're running late somewhere or if they just want a quick snack or something like that. If there's not muffins or cookies, but there almost always is muffins or cookies. Which brings me to the next thing. These are double chocolate cookies that I made on Sunday. So I do all of our baking for the week on Sunday, all the school snacks, everything like that. So we've got cookies here, muffins here, and over here, this is all my dry pasta. Yes, I do make my own pasta, but I don't have time to make my own pasta every single time we want to eat it for dinner, especially if I'm working. I don't have time to be making dough when I get home. I'm gone out of the house for 14 to 15 to 16 hours a day. So there's certainly no time for me to be making pasta at the end of the workday. So this is great in a pinch. This is also something the kids can make on their own, which they do. Mason will do this quite often. I buy it when it's on sale, which is why there is an absolute abundance of it. And same thing, this gets dry canned as well. I also have a really cool vacuum sealer and it's by WeVac. So it does regular vacuum sealing with the bags. It also marinades in the inside of it. It's got like a deep canister in the inside that you can put your packages in, but it also fits a mason jar, a 1 liter mason jar. So I'll put my dry pasta in the mason jar, put the whole mason jar in my vacuum sealer, hit the button, and about 10 to 20 seconds later, the lid pops open and it is vacuum sealed your pasta. It's the best. It's the coolest thing. So I like to use it for this, and I like to use it for my dried herbs. When I pull them all out of the garden, I initially have tons of jars of herbs, so I'll always leave one open as I'm using it, but I like to make sure that the rest of them are vacuum sealed for the shelf until I get to them. You can do the same thing with jars of lentils or beans or whatever it is. Put it in the jar, put the jar right in the vacuum sealer, hit the button, vacuum seals the whole thing and it's good on the shelf. So I like that. Same sort of thing up here. This is just lentils, beans, chickpeas. There's some container of seasoning of some variety, black beans, and I've got turbinado sugar up here. Got one here, one here. That's pretty much it for this area. Up top here is just molasses, vinegar. There's a container of mayonnaise. I do make my own mayonnaise, but when I'm using mayonnaise as a base for the vegetable dip I make, I like to use the stuff from the store just because it's a bit thicker. I find when I use homemade mayonnaise, it gets a little bit runny and I don't like that. So there's just some other random stuff up here. White vinegar, apple cider vinegar, a backup popcorn seeds, molasses, just a few random things. Now I did mention that I have one piece of garlic hanging here. The rest of my garlic is in the basement. So I did pull around 500 or 520 garlic this year. So they're all downstairs. They were hanging up and they were curing. I still need to cut the tops off of them and put them in a more manageable size container because right now I just have huge pieces of garlic sitting down there in a tote and I just haven't got around to doing that. So that's definitely something I need to get to this week. For the kitchen, that's pretty much it. I mean, the only other thing in here that we grow or provide for ourselves is eggs, but those don't sit on the shelf. They just sit on the counter. Oh, and there goes a feather. Look at that. On top of this, let's go have a quick look at my fridge and my freezer and I'll show you the rest of the food that we do for ourselves. Another thing that we are very lucky to get is milk. So yeah, you can buy milk from the store. I prefer not to. We have the luxury, and I say luxury because it is, because not everybody can get it, but we have the luxury of being provided with fresh milk, which is incredible. So with the milk, we do our own ice cream, cream cheese, ricotta, custard, butter, on and on and on and on and on the list goes. So this has been awesome. This has been great. Everything else in my fridge is basically just mason jars full of my food. Okay, so out here are my two deep freezers. So I've got a stand-up one and I've got a chest freezer. This is, well, if you've been following on Instagram, you know what this is because this is my sunflowers that I harvested that I had to keep driving around with in my truck for weeks because I had a rat in the house that I couldn't catch, which I finally did get. So now I can bring these back in the house and harvest the seeds off of these. So normally what I do is I shake all the seeds out of these, I put them in a mason jar, put them in the cupboard and leave them, and then next season I'll just throw them into the dirt in the garden. And that is how I've found they grow the best, by just letting them do their thing. The other thing I've got here, again, if you've been following me on Instagram, is the bin of the only potatoes I have left. So not a lot of potatoes left in here because if you've been on Instagram, you know that the rat that was in the house had taken pretty much all of my potatoes. So we had a horrible harvest this year and I only got about a basket this big and it had a cover on top of it, a box was sitting on top of it, and it wasn't until probably half this box was gone that I realized something was going on. And then somebody was here and found all the potatoes in my basement. So the rat had taken all my potatoes and stored them downstairs, which is why they're sitting out here. But now that the rat is dead, I can move these back into the house. All right, in my deep freeze here, I have a plethora of things. So I've actually got a quarter of a deer here that I got to do something with. I've got a bunch of shredded zucchini. I have all the beef I would ever need in this lifetime, just a constant supply of beef. So very lucky to have that. Hamburgers, roasts, ground beef. There's tongues in here, like cow tongues in here for the dogs. There's everything I could ever want in this freezer in regards to beef. The other thing I've got in here is I've got bags of chicken feet. So I save these on the chickens when we process them, and so do my parents, and then I give them to the dogs as treats. I've got chickens in here, I've got turkeys in here, and I think that's about it for in here. And this is my stand-up freezer. Bit of an enormous mess, as we can see, but I've got more beef in here, more roasts, more hamburgers. I've got bones and stuff that I'm going to pull out and do stock with, more shredded zucchini, some more chicken feet. I've got this bag here, I'm not sure if you can see it. This is all my beeswax that I have to render down. I've got about 25 jars of garlic scape butter that I made this year. I've got a huge bag of garlic scapes in here that are all chopped up and ready to be used for something. I've got butter, which you can see an abundance of because I buy it when it's on sale. Butter here is upwards of between $8 and $9 a pound. When it's on sale, you can get it for around $4. So I tend to buy a bunch of them, but I'm running out. I only have like 14 in here and I like to have at least like 20. Parmesan cheese I also have in here, a whole bunch of these. These were on sale for 25 cents because they were about to expire. I ended up with, I think, 10 or 15 of them, whatever I was allowed to take. I just put them right in the freezer and then I just pulled them out as we need them. This was the best thing ever, 25 cents. These things are like $9 a container. Not really much else in here. Got a bit of pork in here, but that's just about out. It's almost time to process my pigs, probably in like 2 months or so. So we'll have pork again, which will be great. Otherwise, that's really about it. That pretty much wraps up everything that we've grown and harvested this year. So I've still got half a deer in the freezer and hunting season is right around the corner. I've got chickens, turkeys, pork, beef, and hopefully we get another deer this year. And once I add my other 2 pigs to the freezer, we will be set. We have enough meat for sure to get us through the year. Honestly, probably closer to like 18 months or so. We're in pretty good shape as far as meat goes. Everything that's on the shelf here is likely enough to get us to next year as well. But it's funny because right now I look at the shelves and they look so nice. They're all full and there's so many colors and everything looks great. But when you get down to the end of your jars, right before canning season starts again next year, the shelf is just sad looking. There's so many holes on it. There's usually only 1 or 2 jars left of each thing and it just looks sad. So seeing the shelves right now full of colorful jars makes me very happy. That's it for this video though. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram @_livingdifferent, where you can stay up to date on what I'm doing all the time. I post on there multiple times a day and Instagram always includes content that's different from YouTube. Don't forget to check out the website www.living-different.com, where you can have a browse through all the products I have to offer on there. When you first log into the website, a little box will pop up and it'll prompt you to sign up for a weekly newsletter. The newsletter comes out every Sunday at 9 and it always includes a recipe that I use here in my kitchen. If you don't want to sign up for the newsletter, that's totally fine. Just hit the X and you can continue to browse the website as normal. My website now also includes merchandise, so hoodies, long sleeves, t-shirts, and crew necks, so make sure you check that out. Stuff for adults and for kids as well. Mason also started his own YouTube channel, Life Outside with Mason, so make sure you check that out. His content includes him doing his regular outdoor things and hopes to inspire other kids to be able to do the same sort of stuff on their own as well. That's it for this video though. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.